something, Barry?
Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Before we get started, I just got a small announcement I would like to make. We need to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, because none of this would have been possible without you. So today's sponsor is Chippewa Food Services. They provide you with the finest of all your favorite meats. They got chicken, if you want chicken. If you want cow, hell, they got cow. And if you want pig, goddammit, they even got pig. And there's a special offer going right now for the vegans, 10% off if you're a vegan. So feel free to contact him in the email below, like his ass on Facebook, like his ass in real life, and... Okay, I'll let him know. So that's about all the time we have for our sponsor right now, and we need to get back to the program.
Today's tale is about the dentist, and it's gonna be told to you by a lion.
He stumbled into the darkness of his one-room apartment as his hand fumbled against the wall to find the light switch. It was a long and tiresome day for Barry. Ever since the new management took over, they had been working him extra hard. There were talks floating around about pay cuts and layoffs. He was concerned because he needed this job. The bills were piled sky high, and his previous lifestyle left him with an incredible debt. He often wished that time travel was possible so he could go back in time and talk some sense into his younger self. But even if he could, it would probably never work on account of his stubbornness. With things not going well at work and his financial crisis, Barry didn't have much hope in life. Not a whole lot to look forward to. But not having much to look forward to isn't the same as having nothing at all. There was still that sliver of light. There was still that one thing to make his life shine. The greatest moment that came consistently every single day since his existence, and he was incredibly grateful for that. So when his fingers finally were able to strike the switch that lit up the room, there was an equally lit smile upon his face. The day was over. Barry was home and his favorite part had arrived. It was time for supper. Yet it wasn't the supper itself that made Barry so glad. Supper wasn't always good. It very much depended on what it was for him to become truly excited. If it was chicken breasts, rice, and Brussels sprouts, it could be a real drag. But on taco night, well, that was a whole different story. Taco night was one of Barry's most favorite nights, and when he got tacos on Bannock, it was a major league of suppers. Regardless of whatever it was that would be placed on the table in front of him on any given night, there was always the tasty treats that come afterwards. It was the dessert that Barry so much desired. It was a tasty reward for a successful completion of the day. Whether the day was hard, fun, bad, or mediocre, he could always depend on the sugary snacks to declare the day to be a day worth living. So, on this night in particular, Barry sat down at the dinner table and had himself a big, fat, juicy cheeseburger with fried potatoes and mixed vegetables. He was hungry, and it didn't take long for him to eat everything that was on his plate. It was at that moment he was struck with an emotion that could only be described as pure joy. It was time for sweets. He delightfully galloped from the table and headed to the fridge to see what was in store for his tummy. He swung open the refrigerator door and couldn't believe his eyes. There, on the second shelf, was an entire banana cream pie. Barry loved banana cream pie. So he pulled it out of the fridge and headed back to the table where his supper once was. He grabbed hold of his fork and took the biggest scoop he could possibly manage. straight from the middle. A humongous smile was deeply planted on his face as he raised the fork up to his mouth, with drool slowly slithering down his chin. He began to fill himself with the cream pie, but in the very moment he took his first bite, the joy came to an instant halt. Agonizing pain shot through the left side of his face, stemming from his upper tooth. He dropped the fork and threw the pie across the room. He tumbled to the floor and began rolling back and forth all over the place. It was a technique he learned in school, part of the safety procedures if you happened to catch yourself on fire. He wasn't sure if it would work on tooth pain. He saw no harm in trying though, but as it turned out, trying was all it was. The pain remained in full existence. And with the pain, he became afraid. He knew what was going to happen next. A fear rose through his belly up to his chest, creating the dreaded heart drop feeling. Barry was going to have to go to the dentist. The dentist was usually something children were afraid of, a stress that would be quickly overcome once they realized the dentist isn't as big and bad as they think he is. But that was something Barry never got a chance to overcome. In all his 48 years that led up to this day, the dentist was a place he refused to go. As a middle child, his siblings used to drastically pick on him, sometimes in the most ruthless ways possible. One of the jokes they had played was to tell him things about the world that would frighten him. And one of those frights that they had told him was that the dentist liked to molest his patients. Barry knew that if he went to the dentist, he would become one of the dentist's patients, so he simply refused to go. But now there was this agonizing pain that most certainly had to be dealt with. It was time to face some music, for the pain was much greater than his fears. Barry was never a gambling man. Now here he was with those imaginary dice in his hands, shaking, ready to roll and discover the next fate life was willing to throw his way. Barry was going to have to take the risk of being molested. The next morning, after the most terrible sleep, Barry rolled out of bed to begin his day. He could already tell it was going to be quite different. The pain in his tooth was still there, but it had subsided. He thought maybe it would subside some more over time and he could skip his dreaded trip to the dentist. He also thought that would be a bad idea, for he remembered the pain he received from the cream pie the night before. Barry loved cream pie. He didn't want to associate it with any kind of pain and ruin one of his most favorite things. Barry approached the mirror that attached to his dresser to give himself his regular pep speech. This time it was different though. There was a weakness in his voice. He spoke the words, but he spoke with less confidence. The little boy inside him that feared was fearing. He promised himself that if he was a good boy and did the good thing, he would reward himself with a treat when it was all over. And that was all he needed to hear to get a smile on his face, his shoes on his feet, and himself out the door. When he got to the dentist office, the lady at the counter took his name and asked what his problem was. Barry explained the situation from the night before. She wrote some things down on the clipboard she had in front of her and told him to take a seat. Barry turned around to see a row of chairs against the wall. People of all ages were there as well. He found an open seat between a young hipster-looking millennial with a man bun wearing a I Heart Vegans t-shirt and an old Negro man who smelled of stale whiskey. He sat down, hoping neither one of them would talk to him. He was in no mood for conversation, not at a time like this. Lucky for him, everyone remained silent. Time passed, and the people in the waiting room slowly rotated out as new patients came in. Finally, a lady in pink scrubs came out and Barry's name was called. Everyone watched him nervously get up from his seat as she led him to the room where the dentist would see him. There was a large recliner-looking chair that seemed somewhat comfortable. She told him to take a seat. He was hesitant but eventually gained the nerve to sit down. She put a thick green bib over his chest and attached it with a metal wire that went around the back of his neck. There was no going back now. Barry had passed the point of no return. She let him know that the dentist would be in shortly, gave him a smile, and left the room. He remained silent as he listened to the sound of her footsteps fade away. Barry waited with nerve-wracking anticipation. It was beginning to become a bit too much for him. He took a look around the room and noticed a portrait on the wall. It was a picture of a distinguished-looking white male with a head of golden blonde hair. The man was smiling. It was a brilliant smile with a set of perfect white teeth. Underneath the picture was a name. It said Dr. Flett. Barry admired the man. He looked like a mature, responsible fellow. He got a touch more comfortable with the position he was in, but it was just a touch. It wasn't long before he heard a new set of footsteps approaching his direction. He thought about getting up out of his chair and running for the door. He would run far away, where no dentist would ever get him. He would run to a land where the dentist doesn't even exist. And there would be candy trees. Trees that didn't only grow candy, but they were made of candy as well. But then he thought about the pain in his tooth and knew damn well how much more pain the candy would inflict upon his mouth. Barry stayed put. Hello, you must be Barry. Barry looked up and saw a man standing in the doorway. He wasn't a tall man, but he looked like a friendly man. There was a smile on his face that looked quite genuine, but it wasn't the same smile he saw in the picture. His teeth still looked marvelous. They looked like the type of teeth that had visited the dentist every day that they had existed, but they weren't the same set of teeth in the picture. There was no golden blonde hair upon his head either. The hair on this man's head was mostly gray with hints of what used to be black. Barry found discomfort in what he saw, enough discomfort to neutralize his relaxed position and respond with a hint of panic. Who are you? Barry asked. Well, I'm the dentist. But if you're the dentist, who's the man in the picture? Barry gestured to the picture on the wall that he was looking at moments earlier. Oh, I see. That's my business partner. You see, we work out of the same establishment. You just so happen to be put in this room as we have a bit of a patient overload. It's the season. Barry had never heard of a dentist season. This confused him very much, but he could pull some sense out of it, as he was having tooth pain, and if the season was the culprit, then that was fine with him. Here, Barry, take a look at this. The dentist pointed towards a badge he had on the top left side of his uniform. It was shiny and silver, with the words, Certified Dentist printed across. Does this ease your worries, sir? The dentist asked. Barry examined the badge and sunk back into his borderline comfortable place. Well, it looks legit to me, so it must be, Barry said. Very well. Now, I understand you're having some tooth troubles, the dentist said. Correct, Barry replied. Yesterday, I was eating dessert and a whole bunch of pain shot up the side of my mouth. Sounds like you may have a cavity, the dentist said. Do you mind if I take a look? Barry became hesitant again. The dentist noticed the fear in his eyes, a fear he was used to seeing, as it was rumored through the schoolyard that he was a dangerous, evil man, and his tools were meant to harm and not meant to fix. The dentist grinned. Oh, Barry, there's no need to be afraid of the dentist. The dentist is your friend. Imagine being able to eat sweets again without being troubled with such tremendous pain. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Barry nodded his head, but gave no verbal response. All right then, well, let us take a look. Barry slowly opened his mouth and let the dentist look inside. The dentist looked, and after a brief moment of humming and hawing, he instructed Barry to close his mouth again. Well, Barry, it appears that I was correct with my assumption. You do, in fact, have a cavity. Now, it won't be long for me to fix it if you like. I can take care of that right now. Do you have to pull it out? Barry asked. Heavens, no. It's just a simple procedure where I fix it with my dentist things. Will it hurt? There may be a slight pinching feeling when I inject the freezing agent. Explain. Well, Barry, in order to spare you some intense pain, it is important for me to administer a drug that will numb the side of your mouth I intend to do the work on. Now, you're a big boy, and I'm quite sure you're not afraid of a tiny little needle, are you? Barry was, in fact, afraid of needles, but he didn't want this little pipsqueak of a dentist to know that, so he shook his head no. Yes, that's what I thought. So, shall we get started? All right, said Barry. But you had better not molest me. Molest you? The dentist inquired. Now where would you get such a silly idea like that? Hey, I know a thing or two about the dentist industry. Well, if you think the dentist industry involves such vile acts as molestation, then you are sadly mistaken, my friend. The dentist is a simple man who fixes the teeth of people all around the world. He has no interest in your Peter or your bunghole. All he is interested in is the teeth inside your mouth. This gave Barry a load of relief, but not entirely. It's quite hard to suddenly become comfortable with a condition based on a belief you held your entire life. Barry gave some quick consideration, then allowed the dentist to do his work. All right, said the dentist. Open wide. Barry opened his mouth. The dentist pulled out his dentist tools and began his work. Other than the tiny pinch the dentist told him about when the freezing was injected, everything went just fine. When he was finished his work, Barry's tooth was fixed, and he barely felt a thing. He wished he had never listened to his siblings before and had come to the dentist sooner and more often in his life. Not only would he never have to deal with the pain he felt in the first place, but maybe he would have a set of perfect teeth, just like the dentist. All right, said the dentist. Since you have been such a good patient, you get to pick out a toy. What? Are you serious? I get a toy? Why, yes, everyone who comes to the dentist without putting up a fuss gets to pick out a toy. I guess your siblings never told you that part about the dentist. Barry leaped for joy. Where are they? Barry asked, without even trying to hold in his excitement. Why, they're just in the closet over there. The dentist pointed to where the closet was. Barry jumped out of the chair, ran to the closet, and swung open the door. His eyes gleamed with happiness. There on the floor was a treasure chest full of wondrous toys. Barry bent down and began digging through. There were tiny water guns, Marvel action figures, chattering teeth. Barry couldn't believe what he was seeing. Was this really real? And I can pick anything I want? Barry asked. Why, yes, Barry, anything at all. Barry continued to dig, but then he saw something that put a halt to his ultimate joy. There at the bottom of the treasure chest was something incredibly shiny. Something too shiny. He reached in to see what it was, even though, deep down inside, he already knew. When he picked it up, his hand was now holding a certified dentist badge. A very similar one to the badge on the dentist's chest that he had shown him earlier. That was when Barry had discovered something deeper in the closet. It was a shoe, attached to a foot, attached to a leg, attached to the body of a man who had the same face and golden blonde hair as the man in the picture. His teeth were still perfect, and you could tell they were incredibly white, even through the pool of blood that had spilled out through the opening of his throat. Barry was about to get up, but he knew he couldn't. The man posing as a dentist behind him had placed his hands on the small of Barry's back with too much strength for Barry to fight. Oh, I see. It appears you have discovered my little secret, said the dentist, who just might be not a dentist at all. Now, I must apologize. I have another secret to inform you of. See, Barry, I am not the dentist. As a matter of fact, I'm not even a high school graduate. You see, Barry, for once in your life, you should have listened to your siblings. Sometimes, even when they lie, they are protecting you. Because in every lie, there is a tiny shred of truth. I am that shred of truth, Barry. I am the molester.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you liked it. If not, smash it anyway. Make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell for notifications. Peace!